as you're listening to the Kobo Riding Life podcast, where we bring you insights and inspiration for growing your self-publishing business. We're your hosts. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Joni. On this week's episode, we spoke to film and television actress turned memoirist Irene Tsu, who's been working as an actress since she was a young child, and she's built up an incredible resume spanning over 5 decades, and she's appeared alongside legends such as Elvis Presley, Jeff Bridges, and Bette Midler, to name a few. She's considered one of the very first Asian American performers to break through Hollywood's rigid diversity barriers, and she's played many roles that were not originally written for an Asian woman. Her new memoir, A Watercolor Dream: The Many Lives of Irene Tsu, recounts her Hollywood career. It's full of juicy tidbits about her time working with Elvis Presley and basically what her career has been like. So it was a little bit different for us, but a really interesting conversation.
Yeah, if you're a fan of old Hollywood and you kind of want an inside peek into what it was like to be an actress during that time, like definitely recommend you check out her book and also listen to this episode, because she goes into kind of her acting and what it was like being an actress during this time. And also we talked to her a bit about writing, because of course we do. So we wanted to hear about what her writing process was and kind of how she found her publisher. We really enjoyed talking to Irene, and we hope you enjoyed this interview as much as we did.
I had a college professor who always said that, you should write a book. At that time, I was just an actress, and I was studying cinema in his class. And I said, "Oh, Tom, I don't know how to write. I'm not a writer. I can't write." So he just let it go. And many years later, I think it was like the 2016 or 17 or something like that. And it was like about 12, 13 years ago, whatever time it is. So he had me back in class to give a talk. And so I gave a talk, and then there was a question and answer period. And a couple of hands went up. And so I pointed to one of the guys, and he said, "I want to write your book." I said, "My book?" He said, "Yes, that's what I would like to do, with your permission, of course, And the other guy wanted the same thing. And then Tom says to me, "Well, you see, you have a book there." I guess I was just telling them about my life story. And everybody's got a life story, and everybody's life story is interesting in some ways. And I was born in Shanghai, and, during the time of peace, it was then the communists overran China, I believe in 49 or something. And I was just a little child, I was like 3 years old. And I came out with my parents, actually with my mother and sister. And we landed in Taiwan, where my father was working for the government then. And then I wasn't there long, maybe a year. And then we were, moved to Hong Kong. So I spent, I would say, a good 6 or 7 years in Hong Kong, growing up in my elementary school years. And Hong Kong, I don't know if you know, it was a British Crown colony at the time. And it's a spectacular place because it's physically beautiful. So what happened is that started my life in Hong Kong, and I always wanted to be a ballerina. And I remember maybe like 8 or 9 years old, I had begged my mom to give me ballet lessons. So there was a school not too far from my house, and I had talked her into taking me there, and then I will take a bus back home. So that was the arrangement, and I just loved it. I just lived for my 2 ballet lessons every week. That was what I lived for. And then there was also my aunt. I think she's also taken ballet and was quite advanced. So then I would get to go to her house in the weekends and practice my little steps, of the ballet steps. So I was just totally wanting to be a ballerina. Unfortunately, they had these exams that was in the Commonwealth, and it was put out by Sadler's Wells, which was the Royal Ballet, and then once every 4 years in the Commonwealth. So okay, fine. Then my teacher put my name into it. We practice our little routines and little, bar work and stuff like that, and so I went, and I don't know how I did. I was just so happy that it was over, like a few weeks later, they told my family that I had been chosen to the only person from the UK in that night area, Singapore and, all the surrounding areas, that I was to go to the Royal Ballet. And then while my father heard about this, he was in another country, so he flew in, took a meeting with him in a high-rise building. I went there, and I was petrified. And my father, questions to ask, and they said that yes, it's very, very strict. Your daughter will basically like going into a convent. She's going to eat what we tell her to do, sleep when we tell her to do, and she's going to act, of course, at a regular school because you're 12 years old, and then also practice ballet 5 or 6 hours a day. So he's listening. And then he said, but not only that, but she has to measure up. In other words, physically, she has to grow to a certain height and weight that we require to be in the corps de ballet. And by the way, there's no, certainty that she would be a prima ballerina. That's like, something very, very special. And then after that, she will have to work for this Royal Ballet for 7 years to pay back the training that we gave her. Well, my dad heard that and says, that's like an indentured servant, so that is not really going to, work very well. And then besides, he looked at me, I was like a scrawny little 11-and-a-half-year-old, and he's going to say, this kid's never going to grow up to look like a ballerina that I think ballerinas look like. So, just whispered something, and then we left the office. And so I didn't get to go. And my mother, of course, later said to me that, we are applying to come to the United States. And we've been waiting for our visa for like 7 years. You don't know about it, but, we're definitely going to take the opportunity to come to the States. And so that was my first heartbreak. And I never really had intended to be an actor by any means or a writer. I was just, wanted to be a dancer. So in my book, I think that I talked about, having the first opportunity of becoming a dancer in my high school, because a high school teacher, she was coming from the Martha Graham School of Dance, and she was putting on a school play and had asked me to be, the understudy to the lead. And I said to her, Mrs. Levis, I don't speak English that well. So she says, well, no, you don't have to speak English. This character speaks with her feet. She's a deaf mute. It was called the Finian's Rainbow. It was a very, very old play. And I said, oh, okay. So she invited me to the rehearsals and so on and so forth. And, and I thought, well, maybe I could do this. Maybe I could be a dancer because I'm a very good mimic, so I'm like, copying her steps, just marking the floors, in the darkened auditorium. And so I felt maybe I was kind of special. I got to sign out of classes that I don't want to go to. And she would always fill out, she'd say rehearsal, stuff like that. And that's how I kind of started into the entertainment. So what I thought was the entertainment industry.
Yeah, your life could have been very different if you'd gone to ballet school.
That's right. I often thought about that. That was interesting. Yeah. Even when I was, working a lot in Hollywood, I thought about, wow, wouldn't it be life be so different? But that's how our life is.
So I'm wondering, when you were writing your memoir, how did you decide which stories of your life you wanted to include in the memoir? I mean, you had a lot to choose from, so I'm just wondering what the writing process must have been like for you.
Well, I finally started writing because, like the urging of the college professor. And then my parents passed away about 11 years ago. And I just found the passing of time. And I have a daughter who's very young, and she's 23 now. And I thought, the passing of time, when you lose your parents, you have that feeling, I think most people do. So I moved down to San Diego at the time, and to be close to a boyfriend that I was dating. And so I thought, well, maybe I should start here. And I was just writing down those scribbles, handwritten things, next to my bed, whatever I can think of, and writing it down, scraps of paper. And then I went to some local community college and took some writing classes and read some books about how to write a memoir kind of books. So, I don't know how else other people do it, but that's what I did. It's just so very minimal. And I thought I not going to really write a literary book, not, of that caliber or anything. But I just write like I talk. Basically, it's a book about, it's just like people, I would be invited to dinner parties or with friends and things like that. People will always ask, so-and-so, did you know so-and-so? And how long did you work with them? Was anything going on? And, they were trying to like draw little things out of me, So I would be always telling stories like that. I said, well, you think about it, I kind of leave them on the hook a little bit, So the book is really like me talking to you. Like to a friend or to someone that I am comfortable in, telling them my story, my background, how we came out of China, and how accidentally everything was an accident. The very first job that I got, I guess it was a job, it was a commercial. Then I was standing in line with a bunch of high school friends at a very popular place in New York City. It may still be there. It's called PJ Clark's. So it was this very popular place, burger kind of place. So it's like waiting in line, and all of a sudden, this guy turns around and looks at me and says, "Do you speak Tahitian?" I said, "No." I didn't know what he was talking about. Are you Tahitian? I said, "No." So. Anyway, he was kind of persistent. He said, well, we're looking for a Tahitian girl to be in a commercial. And the commercial is called Wishbone Salad Dressing. And it's a new product that they put in ice cream, or Tahitian oil salad dressing, whatever it is. And he said, you should come to my office and we'll show you the script or whatever it is, bring some pictures. So they gave me the card, and so I passed it around to my friends, and they said, you know what, I think he's a real agent. He's on Madison Avenue. I mean, this guy is on Madison Avenue, we need to go. So all the three of us, piled into the subway and went downtown, found Madison Avenue, got to their place, and go, oh my God, I think he is a real agent. I mean, it's like, posters on the wall, Broadway posters, and a lot of actors' pictures. He said, where's your pictures? So I said, wait, I don't really have any pictures like that, but, I have some pictures, just pictures that, we took at the summer camp in, our YMCA summer camp. And he said, oh, okay, So that's how he gave me the storyboard, and then I went to whatever the address was, and I got the part. So I had no idea if I ever signed a contract, or if my mother did, or if I was ever paid for it. I don't know. All I know is I was supposed to show up there a certain day, like 3 days from now, and just read these lines, you wait for your turn, get the storyboard says, oh, so-and-so says this line, and then you say this, and then you say that, and then you look at it, and you look at this. Okay, so I went and did what they told me to do, and nobody seemed to say it's good or bad or anything. So, I go, I guess it's okay. So I left, and that was my first official job for Wishbone salad dressing.
How old were you then?
I was like 14.
14. Okay. So something that struck me when reading your book is how detailed your memories are, even from a very young age. And I wondered, did you have journals that you were referring to, or were you talking to people from your past? Like, how did you remember so much in so much detail?
It's strange. People ask me that, but I remember everything, but now I have selective memories. At my age, I can have selective memories. So I remember everything, but I first started writing the book when I came back to LA. I went to see my professor again. So he said that, in order to write your book, you need to look backward, and you're still looking forwards. I said, oh, okay, whatever. So I went on IMDb and I looked at all my credits, and I thought, oh my God, I did have over 80 credits. Some of them I remember completely, and some of them I can't remember at all. It was just like that. And most of them I would, if I looked at old films or something, if I recognize what I was wearing, then I know what show it is. But some of that, oh, I never wore this. I had never even seen that costume in my life. So it couldn't be me. But that's how I started going by the IMDb. And I went on Google, actually, and I thought, oh, my God, there's all these pictures of me in Google. Some of them are not even me, and everything is wrong, and, just whatever. But you got to go with IMDb because of the credits are, accurate, and the dates are accurate. So I went there and reconstructed basically my film work. And the backstory of us coming out of China was, I did talk to my aunt. Since my mom and dad's gone, I talked to my aunt, a couple of aunts. And there were some stories that they were very reluctant to tell because they had a very hard time under the communist regime. And so I didn't want to press it. I just... I did have some help. I had a Chinese writer to help me with the backstory. However, after we went into it for like a couple of months or so, I read it and I just really did not like it because it's his voice. It's not mine. He's a very angry Chinaman. Very angry. He's brilliant. He's an amazing writer, but he is so full of anger. But that's where he's coming from. I don't know if you guys were born in Canada or are you Canadian nationals, both of you?
I am. Joni wasn't born here.
I was born in Scotland, so I moved here a few years ago.
Scotland, okay. So you're an immigrant, in fact, or did your parents come here first?
My mom was born here, so I had citizenship, yeah.
So your mom's born here, but your father was from
Scotland, yeah.
Scotland.
Yes.
Wow, that's a place I really like to go to. It seems to be a lot of problems there for some reason. A small place, Scotland and Ireland, and all very distinct kind of traditions and heritage. The Scots,
It's a good place to visit, especially it's good in August when they have the festival and there's a lot of things going on. Not this year, but
yeah,
typically.
not this year. So when my publishers wants to fast track the book, they know that it's a good time to have the book out because it's a good summer read. It's a very easy reading, summer, fun, glamorous kind of read. And I've been just getting really good responses for it, and I'm very, very glad because, like I said, it's my first book. And backstory was the backstory. It was just the way it was. It happened. And, coming here as a first generation Chinese American are quite different. The reason I asked you if you were born in Canada or Canadian native is that there are so many different kinds of Chinese American or Japanese American or whatever, because we are like the first generation. So it's very confusing. I really don't know if I'm American or Chinese. When go to China, they definitely immediately know that I'm not Chinese at all. I can't seem to meld into the crowd. I thought I was speaking quite good. I was making sure that I kind of blend in. I don't. Well, I looked down and I thought I had cowboy boots on. Well, that's
they could see you.
It's not going to work. So, but somehow, in just the your mannerism or stuff like that, they just know. So, but then I'm in America, and I thought I'm totally Americanized, but obviously they're going to think of me as Asian American, Although in the film business now, the diversity is incredible. With every part there is, they cast any ethnicity. Sometimes really overboard. I mean, I was even up for a part of a warden of a male penitentiary. I'm going, wow, that's really stretching it too far. How the hell am I going to do this? So I looked around and there was, like these big, husky type of woman, Hispanics or blacks, white women, they are fairly hefty. I'm 115 pounds and, 5'3", and I'm just like, I'm trying to make myself bigger or something, or louder or stronger. It's funny, but it got to me so the other way.
So you mentioned in your book that you got roles that weren't written specifically for Asian actors. And I'm just wondering, did you ever receive negative pushback from producers or the audience? And how do you think diversity has evolved in the last, I've noticed it just from my perspective that it's really changed in the last 10 to 15 years, but I wonder, since you're working in the industry, if you have a different perspective.
Yes, it has. It really has changed quite a bit. When I was working, there weren't that many Asian actors or Asian Pacific actors. And because I'm able to photograph very differently, so I played a lot of Polynesians, a lot of Hawaiians, kind of stretched, and, Vietnamese, Japanese, whatever, whereas nowadays there is so many Asian actors, maybe with more parts. So it's same thing. And the time, I have to say that the reason I got most of those parts and not parts that's written for Asian was usually because of the director. Okay, I go in to see the casting person or the director. They kind of look at me and said, I'm thinking about another part for you. I don't know what it is. It was like, I went in to see the casting director of Down and Out in Beverly Hills, which was a very hit picture. And she's a big casting director. Ellen Chenoweth, she has casted just enormous amounts of films. So she looked at me. I went in there for a Chinese interpreter's part, which I thought that I can handle very well. So she says, do you mind going to the bathroom and just take some of the blush down and some lipstick, don't want you to look too glamorous. Oh, okay, fine. Go to the bathroom, wipe off, come back in. And she says, you still look kind of too pretty, And I was kind of, thought, oh shit, I got the part. She said, however, I want you to come in to meet the producer, the director, Paul Mazursky, who's got a huge amount of credit. He's just huge. Because he's thinking to cast one of the other parts, a dentist's wife. That's a movie with Bette Midler and Nick Nolte and Richard Dreyfuss. The dentist's part's wife to be other than just a white American, some kind of ethnicity. And so I want you to go and meet him and see what he thinks. She's, that's why she's a great casting director. She thinks out of the box and she's very creative. So sure enough, I went in there to meet him, read a little scene with him, and right away I got the part. And she said, he says, my God, you're Sheila Walsberg. And that's her name, Sheila Walsberg. It was like a Jewish woman, Jewish princess. I said, oh my God. So he took me around the office. He's got a suite of offices on the same floor, by my arm, and just open the door, knock on the door, open the door. I said, oh, this is Sheila Walsberg. Sheila Walsberg, meet Sheila Walsberg. Everybody's laughing and everything. And that's one of the incidents. So it happened on quite a few pictures. Was the director met me and thought that I would be more appropriate as another part. So, it was lucky for me.
So you were able to work successfully and consistently in Hollywood for your whole career. What do you think has contributed to your success and the longevity of your career?
Well, I did work tremendously, just nonstop working till about, I did take a break, because I'm also a real estate broker, and which I've been doing for over 25 years, because acting, there's always a block of time that you're off, you're free. And I noticed that with a lot of huge stars, they're all into renovating houses, because it's another kind of creativity. Diane Keaton, I was told that she did 7 houses in 14 years. Moved 7 times in 14 years. And then there's also Jeremy Renner. He does really expensive homes, like 10, 12, 15, maybe $1 million homes. Brad Pitt, those houses all the time. And Cher does these incredible homes that are, because they got the capital, so, they can maybe, get a little house and make it into a 50,000 square foot home. And she has incredible taste and does very well. And that's how I got my real estate license, not exactly to be selling real estate, but I just thought that I would really like to do some rehab, and just change it. So I was not during the time that I'm not acting, I would have a project to do, so to speak.
So when I was reading your book, it's kind of like you mentioned, it was like I was reading it, but it felt like you were talking to me as a friend, like telling me your whole life story.
Uh-huh.
But I found the way that you were describing celebrities was always very respectful. And sometimes memoirs get a little too gossipy, or they're trying to expose like some big secrets, but you didn't do that. And I thought it was like very respectful way to talk about people. I was just wondering, was that intentional? How did you want to discuss your celebrity interactions?
They were really truthful, because really I have not found anybody that was particularly nasty to me, or I had no sexual harassment problems at all. But maybe because I had done a huge body of work by the time I'm 21. And by the time I'm 21, I was dating Frank Sinatra. You're not dating anybody else. So then nobody is going to touch you, that's for sure, So then after him, I got married. So I did not really, I wanted to bring this up because, since that subject is just so, everywhere. And I want to say that I'm one actress probably at one time was sexually harassed during my whole career. And the time that I was sexually harassed was by some producer that I wasn't even working for, or even having the vaguest idea that I was going to work for him. And he was very rude, I thought. And but that just isn't anything. I just say, I'm not going to take lunch in your motel room. What is this? I want to eat. I want to have lunch in the commissary or any restaurant. I'm hungry. I always starve myself so that I'd be very hungry for my meals. So I'm starved. If we're not getting out of here in 5 minutes, I'm leaving. If you just say it that way, I don't think any guy's going to push you down on the floor to do anything. We can scream, we can kick, we can yell, and I don't know. A lot of these sexual harassment things are so, I don't know if I'm saying the right thing or the wrong thing. I don't really follow it, but all I know is that everybody then became sexually harassed. I can only speak for myself.
Well, it's good that you didn't have any of those experiences.
I know sometimes it could be really, just horrible. And, but in my profession, which is sort of, could happen a lot. But, bottom line is that I would tell my friends, as I would tell you, it's a huge money game, that filming of a TV or a motion picture feature is just so expensive. They can't afford to hire somebody's girlfriend, lover, and mess up the part, the scene. They can't afford it. They could have her walk around the background or have one little. The money's on the line. That's what it is. The money's on the line. So that's all I can say for me. Everybody else may have different experiences.
Can you tell us how you came up with the name for your memoir?
The name came about as I was looking for a hook, So I am a watercolor artist, and I love painting watercolor. And my mom is a very, very good watercolor artist. Well, she doesn't only do watercolor; she does oils and everything. She had went to serious, art school, and she was also I believe she taught at the Art Institute in New York for a very short time in Manhattan, very prestigious place. For me, it's like I've always wanted to do watercolor, always wanted to. I have no affinity with oils or anything. because I like the fluidity of the watercolor. I mean, watercolor, you have to start out with an intention. And that intention is you got to be very clear, because when you put down that first stroke, you can't say, oh shit, it could have been, I'm sorry, it could have been, an inch and a half over, I mean, put that first stroke down. It's the art in itself. I mean, maybe that watercolor could just be just one stroke. That's it. And I learned from, friends of my mother's, teachers of my mother, who does Chinese painting. And that's even more so to putting down that first stroke. And then watercolor, as you know, it runs, it bleeds, it doesn't always, with practice and everything, you can control it a little bit better, but it's never going to be exactly that. And that's the beauty of it. And I thought that's the way life is. It's not exactly how we want it. Okay. Do we have any control over when this pandemic is going to be over? Not really. The whole world is working on it. I think it's on God's time. It's not on our time. So I think that a watercolor dream is probably befitting my nature, and that sometimes you said, oh gee, that came out pretty good, or sometimes you go, oh terrible, you just crush this thing and they'll start all over again. And then there are watercolor artists who really are very skillful, and they try to work it like an oil. They will even cut out little pieces and just do that little piece. And I just don't think that it's going to be that defeats the purpose. The most beautiful one, and now as we speak, I'm trying to use this positive time, into doing some watercolor, and I am writing. Actually, I am writing something. I tell you what I'm writing. I'm writing treatments to scripts, because I have some good ideas and I want to do a treatment. I can't do a whole script. I'm not a screenwriter. But just a treatment, because I'm watching some TV, or a lot of TV, and I'm thinking, what would be something that people will want to see now. And
what's a treatment? What is that?
A treatment to a screenplay is usually like 5 pages. And it's like a synopsis, you get the key characters and what the story is going to be like. And usually if somebody likes it, then they will option it and develop it into a screenplay.
Okay.
And that's the ultimate. Of course, they are just my little thoughts, so I can handle 5 pages, I figure. And if they should get longer, they should get longer.
I was wondering how you found your publisher. Did they approach you, or did you shop your story out to different publishers?
Well, it was very strange, but I had the book almost done. I mean, halfway done, maybe. Then my agent, my theatrical agent, somehow has a connection to Bandman Media. So he pitched it to Bandman Media, and they were interested right away. And then took about a year and a half, another half a year or a year to edit it and to really condense it, because I don't know if I should say it, but being truthful that I am, I kind of really like haiku kind of writing. I like to cut it down to the bone. I don't like anything superfluous, just additional, kind of coloring. I just really like to cut it down to the bare bone, still expressing what you want to express. So I don't know if this is my style, or if there is such a thing, or I know every writer is very different, and there are such tremendous writers, good writers. I had just been turned on to the New York Review of Books. There's some awesome writers there, and just getting that, paper every month, and then online. I'm just unbelievable. Some of the words I've never even seen. It's just so good. So I'm, basically optimistic and grateful for everything that I do.
It's a good segue into your future projects that you have coming out this fall. So you have 2 Netflix projects. You have an animated film, Over the Moon, that releases this fall. And then you have, you're acting in the Away series starring Hilary Swank. So I'm just wondering, how has it been like working on these projects?
Yeah, it was very interesting. But last year I did the Over the Moon, which is a very big musical animation film by Glenn Keane. He is huge. He's done Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Pocahontas, Aladdin. So I was very happy to have chosen to play a part in there. It's about a little girl who wants to build a rocket ship to go to see her mom in the moon because she passed away, and she firmly believes that she is up there. And I'm the grandmother. And then there's some other parts like aunts and, different people. And I haven't seen it. I don't know the script. They're very secretive. I don't know if you know in this career, or is it like books also? They don't really let you.
I would say it's not the same.
Not the same?
No, they want you to read the full book.
They want you to read the whole book.
Yeah.
When we're just auditioning, they don't even show you the title sometimes.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the other one is called Away, and it's a series. It's a Netflix Universal TV. And they got really lucky. That's the one that I went to Vancouver and shot to like right the day before Christmas Eve. They closed down, but they got 10 of them in the can. So they were just doing post-production the last few weeks. And I went to do post because they wanted that Chinese dialect to be very, very Beijing. And to our ears, to the Westerners' ears, I don't know whether it makes so much difference, but that's how they wanted it. So I can speak Mandarin, but they have to have a dialect coach to coach me to say it just right. And it sounds very different because it's like very curling your tongue. Every word is like that, so really have to pay attention to this dialect, I guess, because it's, I think it's, well, I know for sure that the Over the Moon is it's a co-production because the contract I had to sign, it says Pro Studio on it. So I think it's Netflix and, co-production with the Chinese studio. Maybe this one is also.
Have you noticed any major differences in filming projects from when you first started out to now? I don't know if you'll have an answer to this.
There must be.
Very good question. Very good question. I was so afraid somebody was going to ask me something like that.
Oh, no.
Because it is very different. First of all, we use the film in cans of film. Okay, so if you're a big director, you used to get to do, 10-1 or whatever. Smaller directors may get, 4-1, 5-6-1. So it's on actual celluloid, you know what I mean? And now you can shoot 100 takes. It doesn't matter. It's just all, whatever it is. And the lighting is very different. In the old days, they have tremendous amount of lights. I mean, you really get a sunburn, and makeup, and so now it's very natural, just like how we are, on tape. I don't even know how to say it. It's not on tape. It's on
webcam.
Yeah, yeah. You can do it as many times as you want to. Your makeup's much more natural. If you look at old films, and I think that they are playing so many old films nowadays because they have no product. So some of the old films, they're definitely different. Acting styles are different. Mm-hmm. Not that acting is basically the same. It is what it is. But maybe, the gestures, how people used to work, like with Shakespearean and, they had these big gestures because they came from the silent days, they had to have big gestures because there was no sound. So yeah, film has really progressed like everything else. Now I think I don't know if I could call it an adult or whatever it is. It used to be kind of teenagers, and now it's just different now. It's just different. I don't know if it's any better or good because you can do so many takes, and then all the kids, they think that they are film stars because, right? I mean, they can, do tapes of themselves, post it, Instagram, post it, TikTok, whatever. And, it's like they know how to enhance themselves and, Photoshop, all kinds of things.
So true.
Mm-hmm.
So true. So true. It's, I mean, you guys are professionals, I mean, they all of a sudden, with a few, TikToks, they think that they can be professionals too.
What about things like special effects and CGI? That must be quite different over the years, even in the last 10 years or so.
Another great question. It's amazing to me. I just, I'm not in the technical end of it. I'm only interested in the, the acting or the, writing end of it. But yes, film is a very, that's why it's a really, it could be like called the ultimate art form because it involves so much technical things. Before we had CGI, my gosh, like the movie that I did, Green Berets, and I saw it maybe like 3 years ago. And it was really they just put it down so bad because it was the only pro-Vietnam War war movie at the time. And there was a bomb scare even when we had an opening in New York City. And I had invited my parents, and then we had to get shuffled into a tiny little screening room to see the film. But when you look at it now, you know what? It's pretty amazing, and it's good. There's no CGIs. Every footage you saw, the bombing, the helicopters, the trucks, everything was the real stuff, and they had sets that was just like miles and miles of sets and soldiers and choppers and just everything, the war with the war. And then I'm just amazed at what they do now. And sometimes I don't even want it that much. You know what I'm saying? There's just too much CGI, too much, and some of the shows I do like it's that little girl with a dragon on her shoulder.
Oh, Game of Thrones?
Game of Thrones.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's beautiful, even though it's so dark that you can hardly see it.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? I mean, I know that, I don't think they're saving on lighting, but they wanted it that look. I mean, I love Lord of the Rings, I love movies like that to be that kind of CGI, but some of them are just feels like cartoonish to me.
I imagine as an actress, it must be hard to act without all of the, do you know what I mean? When they add it in later? What is it like for you?
They added everything later, so you don't know because they had the blue screen or green screen in back of you, so they put in all that stuff, and they will tell you, okay, so you're doing this and you're going to duck down now or whatever, because acting could be a kind of a treacherous profession because especially those action actors, I really got to hand it to them because even with CGI, with everything, they have to do the motions. They have to do all of that. And there are explosives going off and there are, it's dangerous. And I have to tell you the truth that the directors don't care because they want to get the best shot. They want to. So, But anyway.
I was watching the scene with you and Elvis Presley in a boat, and then I think he's singing to you. I'm not sure, but everything's going on the sides, and like you're literally going down a boat. And I was like, I don't think that would ever be shot like that today.
What do you mean?
Like, it was such an elaborate set that there was no CGI, obviously, but I don't like that wouldn't happen, I think, today as it was shot for you.
Yeah, it was a big setup, and they only did it a few times because, as you know, or as you don't know, Elvis or Sinatra or John Wayne, they don't rehearse, these guys. They don't rehearse. So you don't have no idea what are you going to do. So they tell you, oh, you're going to do this thing, singing. and I never even heard of the song before. They never even played me the song. Okay, so I just had no clue. So did my little scene. Okay, go ride the boat. And you are absolutely right, because you got to get all that background people synchronized, doing their drums or doing their dance or doing whatever it is. And it was quite involving. There must be hundreds of extras, and they were real people, not CGI at all.
And it looked amazing.
Yeah, they shot it in the Polynesian Culture Center, which was sort of like a Polynesian Disneyland kind of thing, But they actually had real Polynesians from that country, I was told, that lived there, that lived there and worked there. Maybe they, I don't know, because then they perform their dances, they perform their fire trolling, and they perform, all those arts are so lost, are beginning to be lost. Because I went back to Hawaii a year ago, and because I have family there, and they, it's very hard to go to a luau. You've heard of luau. Everybody go to a luau, you will see the native dance, and you have the kalua pigs, and you have some really horrible Hawaiian food, but I always enjoyed the show because they put on a big show, and they have the fire dancers and everything. Now there's maybe one or two shows on the whole island.
Yeah, that's sad. Things are being lost.
Yeah, well, so maybe this is the time that people are reading more, because you just cannot be watching TV, 29 hours a day. Just you just want to be reading something, take your mind away from things. And I think I'm reading with my daughter, in fact, and she likes mystery books. So we've gotten some mystery books, and because they have no school right now, so no job. I just want to say that whatever it is, we should live in gratefulness, because if you see, I watch BBC a lot, and, you see what's happening throughout the world. We really are the lucky ones.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Good message to finish on. Well, thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Nice talking to you both. And namaste.
Lovely talking to you.
Joni, you're a yoga teacher.
I am a yoga teacher.
You are too?
So Joni's also a yoga teacher. I do her classes.
Really? Oh my God.
Thank you for listening to the Kobo Writing Life podcast. If you're interested in purchasing Irene's book, we will have a link to it on our blog. And if you're interested in actually seeing what her artwork looks like, she sent us a couple pictures of her watercolor paintings. So that will also be on the blog for you to check out.
This episode was produced by Stephanie McGrath and Joni DiPlacido. Editing is done by Kelly Robotham. Music is provided by Tearjerker. Big thanks to Rachel Wharton for her production support, and big thanks to Irene for being a guest today.
If you're ready to start your self-publishing journey today, sign up for free at kobo.com/writinglife. Until next time, happy writing.